In our micro-teaching group, we decided to do second grade. The members are myself, Susan, Brandy, Stephanie, and Asya. The topic we decided to do was animals in winter, and we have two TEKs. The first one is 2.9, and it's for the content. It's to identify factors in the environment, including temperature and precipitation that affects growth and behavior such as migration, hibernation, and dormancy of living things. The second TEK is 2.19C, and it's language, and it is to write brief comments on literacy and informational text. The two objectives is, the first one is the content objective. It is students will be able to understand what animals do in the winter by filling out a KWL chart. The language objective is students will be able to write brief comments using the informational text read to them.
Good morning, class. Today we are going to start with science. On your desk, you will see that you have a large piece of construction paper. All you should have out on your desk is that paper and a pencil. So on that paper, I'm going to draw my version of the paper up here. So you can see it looks just like yours. On that paper, take your pencil and we're going to divide it into 3 parts. So we'll have the first section, and we'll make the second section, and then you have your third section. So if everybody can make sure your paper looks like this, then in the first section up at the top, write a K. In the second section, you're going to write a W. In your last section, write an L. So can anybody tell me what they think this K might stand for? We have a K, W, and L. What would the K stand for? Yes, it's going to stand for what you know. So this is what you already know. So if this is what we already know, what would the W stand for? This is actually going to stand for what we want to know. And so if we have what we already know, what we want to know, what would the L stand for? Yes, what we have learned. So today, we're going to read this book, Animals in Winter. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to fill out the K portion of what we already know. So in this section, you're going to go ahead and write down what you know about animals in the winter, whether it's what animals you've seen in the winter or what they do in the winter. So go ahead and do that. Good job. And then now we're going to do what we want to know. So from this book, we see that there's a box on the front. It's about what they do in winter, what animals you will see in winter. What do you want to know? Is there a specific animal that you want to know about, a specific animal you want to see, something you want to learn about as far as what they do in the winter? Go ahead and put that here under W. Good job. And then later, after we read the book, we'll do this learn part. So we'll talk about that later.
Okay, so we're going to be reading Animals in Winter. The days grow short and the nights grow long. It is getting colder. Winter is coming. Leaves have fallen from the trees. There are no berries on the bushes and insects are gone. The grass is dead and brown. Birds and other animals are getting ready for winter. Some of the birds will fly south. Bluebirds and orioles are going towards the south. They go where it is warm and sunny and where there is food for them to eat. When the spring comes, the birds will make the long journey back north. They migrate. Some butterflies migrate too. That is what the monarch's butterflies do. They gather in a tree by hundreds before cold weather comes. They stay in the tree all night, and in the morning they fly toward their winter homes in the south.
So what do you guys think migrate might stand for? Have you heard that word before? Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So what type of animals migrate? Okay, great, thank you.
Many bats fly south too, but some bats stay in the north all winter. And when the weather gets cold, they go to a cave. There is no wind or snow in the cave, and the bats sleep there all winter. They do not eat, they live on fat stored inside of them. They do not move, and they hardly breathe. They sleep, sleep, sleep. They hibernate. Woodchucks hibernate too. And when the fall comes, a woodchuck eats and eats and eats. He eats grass, twigs, and leaves. He grows fat. And when it gets cold, the woodchuck crawls into his long tunnel and goes to sleep. Does he sleep for a day? Longer than that? Does he sleep for a week? Longer than that? A month? Even longer. A woodchuck can sleep as long as 4 months. The woodchuck seems hardly alive. He breathes very slowly, and his heart beats slowly. He sleeps, sleeps, sleeps. He hibernates.
Yeah, doesn't that sound amazing? So what do you guys think hibernate might mean? Sleeping? Yeah, a lot of sleeping, right? Is it just for a day? No, not a day, right? So how long? Okay, great. Awesome. 4 whole months.
Some animals do not have to hibernate. They gather food and save it for the winter. That is what a pika does. A pika looks like a little rabbit, but with round ears. Pikas live in high mountains where the winters are long and cold. They eat grass. In the summer, cut more grass and then they can eat. They spread the grass on flat stones and the hot sun dries it out. By the end of the summer, a pika may have gathered 50 pounds of grass. She hides it under rocks. In the winter, she eats the dry grass. It keeps her alive. Squirrels gather food too and save it for winter. They dig holes in the ground. They bury hickory nuts and acorns. And when the winter comes, they dig them up and eat them. Sometimes squirrels forget where they buried the nuts, and trees may grow from the nuts that squirrels forget.
Oh, so they don't hibernate. They don't migrate. What do they end up doing? Yeah, they end up storing up their food, right? Have you ever seen a squirrel decide to like dig up some nuts later on? No? Yes? Awesome.
Some animals do not get ready for winter at all. They do not store food. They do not hibernate. And they do not migrate. They must hunt for food all winter long. There are mice that must hunt all winter for seeds and goldenrod, asters, and other wild plants. Sometimes they eat farmers' corn, oats, and wheat. Deer must dig in the snow for dried leaves, plants, and moss. And when the snow is deep, they must eat the twigs, buds, and bark of trees. The rabbit must hunt under the snow for bits of grass and plants. And when the snow is deep, he too eats the buds and bark of bushes so he can stay alive. In the winter, the fox hunts for mice and rabbits. This fox has discovered a mouse in its tunnel beneath the snow. When the winter is cold and the snow is deep, many animals cannot find food. Here are some ways you can help the animals stay in the winter. Make sure the feeders are placed out of reach of predators. Hang suet and plastic bags in a net. Nail a seed tray with drainage holes to a fence post. And plant shrubs with berries along for food and shelter. But please remember, once you begin feeding the birds and other wild animals in winter, you must continue. They are depending on the food that you supply.
Oh, isn't that so nice? So what are the different types of ways you can help out? Yeah, you can plant. You can hang some of the seeds on a plastic bag. And you can also nail a seed tray with draining holes to a fence post. Thank you.
Eventually the days grow longer and the nights grow shorter. It begins to get warmer and spring is coming.
Okay, so we just finished reading Animals in the Winter. So now we're going to go over our KWL chart. Does anyone remember what the K stands for in the KWL chart? Yes, it stands for what you know. So we know that fox hunt mice and rabbit in the snow. We also know that butterflies migrate. Does anyone remember what the W stands for in the KWL chart? Yes, it stands for what you want to know. Some of y'all wanted to know was, where do animals go when they hibernate? And where do animals get their food from in the winter? Okay, so the column that we didn't finish so far was the L. Does anyone remember what the L stands for in the KWL chart? It stands for learn. So in this column, I would like for you to write any new facts that you learned in the book, Animals in the Winter, on your paper.